Good morning and welcome to Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman. And I'm so excited you're with us this morning. We're here to empower you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, and your children to be healthy and well naturally. And I'm so grateful and thankful to be here to not only empower you to be the best you ever, but for you to also realize that to begin moving forward down the path of health and wellness is to actually create action in your life, to take one step in front of the other, to develop a plan and decide what does work well for me, for my body, for my family, and for that ability for you to be the best you ever. And the one thing that I hear over and over again, people constantly tell me I'm under a tremendous amount of stress. And one of our mentors, his name is Dr. Dean DePice, and he calls it stress, adapt, or perish. And really that's how the body functions and works and how it sees things. See, for many of us, we look at stress and we say, you know what, I've got so much of it. I have family stress. I have relationship stresses. I have work stress. I have financial stresses. I don't make enough money in my job. Or I have so many bills, it's overwhelming. They also talk about physical stresses, things such as maybe sports or lack of activity. How many hours do you sit behind a desk? Or even worse, sit on a sofa all day long or in a chair. And the most that you do is maybe walk to the mailbox to get your newspaper and come back. See, at the end of the day, your body not only needs movement, but it needs balance. Another thing that I find so interesting and amazing is that people will blame their health on that stress. And yes, when there's too much for the body to handle, to cope, and to adapt, the stress does become overwhelming, and it becomes the straw that broke the camel's back. But the reality is, what really creates that turning point is how you adapt to it. How do you see that stress? You know, for me, I grew up, my dad has a tractor store. He also volunteers at the local fire company. But I grew up learning not only a very, very strong work ethic, where you get up very early in the morning, you work all day long. My dad would always say, your last name's on the front door. You don't stop and take lunch. You don't stop and have vacation. I remember it was interesting. One of our employees a long time ago said to me, yeah, it was the middle of summer. He said, Michelle, you know what? I've got a week's paid vacation. And I also have a week's paid of sick leave. I stopped dead in my tracks and I said, what is that? He said, well, I get to go on vacation this whole week and be paid even though I'm not here. And I went back to my dad and I said, Dad, I've never heard of such a thing. I don't get it. I don't understand. He said, Michelle, at the end of the day, you have responsibilities. And you showing up and producing and creating that action, taking that next step forward is what allows this business and company to thrive and to open their doors. And at the end of the day, do you really think that it makes sense for us as employers to pay ourselves for a week's paid vacation if we're not here? And I had to really think about that. What I've learned over time is at the end of the day, you have to move forward. You have to be responsible for your choices, decisions, and actions. And you'll notice that, yeah, I may go on vacation. However, you will not see me paying myself for that time. And many people will look back and say, but I deserve it. Well, at the end of the day, the reality is, I don't deserve anything. And you can relate that to your health. Many people say, but I deserve health. I want health. I want to be well. Well, the reality is, unless you make the right choices and decisions, your health is either heading towards health and wellness or it's heading towards sickness and illness. See, we as Americans believe that if we feel good, we're well. But the reality is, how you feel is a very poor indication of your health. And our practice members have heard me say this over and over again. You know, we run into Uncle Joe, who's a great guy. He looks great. He says he feels wonderful. He hasn't felt better since he was a teenager. He's exercising. He's moving his body. He's eating better. Yet, at the end of the day, is he really well? And you oftentimes hear 2 weeks later, what happened to the Uncle Joe? You're right. Uncle Joe passed away of a massive heart attack. And for many people, the first symptom is death. However, if you ask their friends and family or their loved ones or their spouses, did Uncle Joe have any symptoms? Like, were there any indications that possibly something was going to go wrong or he would be sick? And they would say, well, yeah, actually, you know what? He did have symptoms. He was starting to get really tired. He was saying he wasn't feeling so well. But like most people, they ignore the symptoms. That's what we're being taught. See, the pharmaceutical companies spend an estimated $35.5 million a day in advertising to teach you that if you feel good, you're well, and if you feel bad, you're sick. But that's not how the body functions or works. See, if you're proactive with your health, if you watch what you're eating, if you exercise, if you have a good, healthy lifestyle emotionally, and the big thing that most people miss is taking care of their central nervous system, which we're going to start to talk about. That's the main thing that runs every organ, tissue, and cell in your body. It was the first organ created when you were conceived. So how important do you think this is to your health? And I ask you to not only focus on how you can be healthy and well, but what action steps do you need to take? And to realize that, yes, stress is not exciting, but there's two different types. There's a good stress and a bad stress. And many people will say, Michelle, I want to be stress-free. Guess what that is? That's called you're dead. So we don't want to be stress-free. We want to have less stress. We want to have good stress. We want to have things that make us feel grateful and thankful to wake up in the morning. And we want to limit the negative stresses that are going on in our life. And at the end of the day, when we can limit those, the body has no other choice but to relax and feel at peace. But remember, health comes from a plan of action, of saying, this is what I'm going to do, these are the steps I'm going to take, and where I'm going to head things forward. Today, we're going to be talking about ADHD in your child. And for many people, I will hear parents say to us, you know, my child has ADHD. And I'll also hear adults tell me, you know, there's a lady in the post office I go to that says, oh yeah, I have ADHD. You know, it's just a part of their life. You know, many people will tell me, I have normal headaches. You know, I have normal heartburn. I can't sleep at night. Guess what, guys? There's no such thing as a normal headache. There's no such thing as normal heartburn. At the end of the day, it's a body showing us signals that something is not right. And the big step, the next step to take, is your body saying, it is time to change. And I can't wait to start to dive into ADHD in your child. There's some really wonderful information that we can learn about, empower you to be even better and take care of your family. And we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I can't wait to hear everything we're going to be talking about next.
Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center located at 2310 Churchville Road, Suite C in Bel Air, is enhancing lives through the power of a chiropractic adjustment. As a licensed chiropractor in Maryland and Pennsylvania, Dr. Evan Christman can correct damage from years of lifestyle stresses while educating you to maintain good health for your lifetime. A dedicated professional with a very special focus on children with learning differences and autism, Dr. Christman treats people of all ages, newborn babies, children, pregnant women, families, seniors, and professional golfers. Isn't it time for you to reclaim your life? Take your first step toward health and vitality today. Call Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center at 410-734-4060, and let their experienced staff show you how to restore the flow of life. 410-734-4060, or check them out at restorelifeflow.com.
Welcome back to Wake Up to Wellness. I'm so excited you guys are with us. We're going to be talking about ADHD in your child. And for many people who don't know who I am, you may say to yourself, why ADHD? And what information or credentials do you have to even talk to me about this? My husband and I have been in practice in Bel Air, Maryland for the last 15 years. We own Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center, and I'm Michelle Christman. I'm a chiropractic assistant registered in the state of Maryland, and my husband's Dr. Evan R. Christman. He's a wellness chiropractor. And he's such an amazing person. I know he's my husband, so, many people expect me to say this. But the reality is I've worked side by side with him for so many years, and it is who he is. He's such a fabulous, talented chiropractor who not only cares deeply about his Hang tight for 1 second.
Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center located at 2310 Churchville Road, Suite C in Bel Air, is enhancing lives through the power of a chiropractic adjustment. As a licensed chiropractor in Maryland and Pennsylvania, Dr. Evan Christman can correct damage from years of lifestyle stresses while educating you to maintain good health for your lifetime. A dedicated professional with a very special focus on children with learning differences and autism, Dr. Christman treats people of all ages, newborn babies, children, pregnant women, families, seniors, and professional golfers. Isn't it time for you to reclaim your life? Take your first step toward health and vitality today. Call Christman Family Chiropractic, a creating wellness center at 410-734-4060, and let their experienced staff show you how to restore the flow of life. 410-734-4060, or check them out at restorelifeflow.com.
And what I absolutely love about practicing with my husband is he's such an inspiration. He not only focuses on how you can be healthy and well naturally, but he studies all the time. He invests his time in you being the best you can possibly be. And the one thing that really makes me walk away from this whole entire situation of being who we are is that he cares. I want you to think about this. How many doctors actually spend an hour's worth of their time on your first visit? He spends an hour. At the report of finding, where the time where he literally goes over everything to tell you if he can help you become well or not, he spends another hour with you. And a normal visit in our practice takes about 10 minutes. I'm constantly being told that other doctors spend minutes. You're lucky if they're with you for 5 to 10. It would be the end of the world almost if they're with you for 15 minutes. But at the end of the day, our mission, our passion in life is to not only inspire you, but to help you begin to learn about positive lifestyle choices so that you can be the best that you can possibly be. And we have focused on children with learning differences and autism for the last 15 years. That has been our passion. We have seen thousands of children through this time frame. I've actually gone back and looked at numbers, and we've actually seen over 100,000 people. So this isn't something new for us. This is what people bring their children in to see us for every single day. And you may say to yourself, what does chiropractic have to do with ADHD? And I want to go back to one of the most simplest things that you could possibly talk about, where you could understand completely and wholly. And it goes back to your central nervous system. Central nervous system was the first organ created when you were conceived. It literally controls every single organ, tissue, and cell in the body. It controls everything. This is what you're living your life through. Many people will say, but gosh, you know what? It's my heart. And they'll go to the heart doctor. But the reality is, what controls the function of your heart? It's your central nervous system. And the same thing with thinking. It controls your whole entire body. The central nervous system sends the signals to the brain, to the body, and back again, so you can have wholeness and wellness. And the body can be the best you can possibly be. And there's a quote I absolutely love, and I want you to think about who may have wrote this. And the quote says this: "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." And the person that said that was Thomas Edison. He was an absolutely amazing gentleman. But if you look back and you really see, what is health? we keep reaching as a culture for a pill, powder, lotion, shot, drug, or surgery, when the reality is that is a man-made chemical going throughout a body that's healthy and well. Yes, in an emergency situation, do they save people's lives? Of course they do. But the reality is that's not health care, that's sick care. So what does ADHD mean? It's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it's one of the most common childhood disorders, and it can continue through adolescence and adulthood. Symptoms include difficulty staying focused, paying attention, controlling behavior, and overactivity. And that's the definition from the National Institute of Mental Health. And the one story I want to talk to you about is the boy who thought he could fly. There was a little boy we saw in our practice. He was 7 years old, if my mind serves me right. I'll never forget him, and actually most people we see, I don't ever forget. I might forget a name, but I never forget a face. And at the end of the day, I always feel grateful and thankful when people bring their children into our practice. But this child had ADHD, and he had it pretty bad. His mom said all the different things that were going on with him. She said the most alarming, though, was they live in a 2-story home. There's a deck in the back that's 2 stories up off the ground. And she looked outside her kitchen window and saw her son on the top rung of the deck with his arms out because he thought he could fly like a bird. The mom immediately ran out, grabbed the child, took him down off of the decking. He thought he could fly. He was on psychotropic drugs, a 7-year-old. Medical doctors are giving these prescriptions out like they're candy. Psychotropic drugs shrink the frontal lobe of the brain, harden the arteries to your heart. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, why is a 7-year-old child on medications like this? Also, chemically, if you would break it down, it's the same derivative as cocaine. And if you were to say to a mom, hey, you know what? I think that you need to put your child on cocaine. That's absurd. Why would you do that? So why would you then put your child on those type of medications and expect health to come out of it? The reality is, it's crisis care. They start coming to our practice. They start getting adjusted by Dr. Christman. What do you think happened? His health had no other choice but to improve. He became well. And at the end of the day, we always go back to this question. How important is your child's health to you? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important, how important is your child's quality of life to you as your child ages? If you knew your child was going to live to 100 years old, would you do anything differently? Would you treat them differently? Would you even treat yourself differently? That's the question that you have to start asking yourself. And at the end of the day, what is wellness? Wellness is the degree to which an individual experiences health and vitality in any dimension of life. And Dr. Patrick Gentempo is the gentleman that came up with that definition of wellness. And there are 2 different distinct healthcare models that many people may think about but don't 100% realize. One model is called disease care, and that's what most Americans are under. They're taking an outside source, a pill, powder, lotion, shot, drug, or surgery for some sort of, I believe that they think that it's going to help them move forward to be healthy and well, that it's going to keep them where they are. Well, the reality is, and I say this time and time again, my dad's a volunteer fireman. When he goes into a house and the house is on fire, either that smoke detector worked, it gave them the signal that there was a fire and they got to get out of the house alive, or they had the cords cut because they didn't want to hear the sound. And oftentimes that's where we have some major problems. People get caught in fires, and sometimes people actually take the smoke detector off the wall. And there was absolutely no way that they could get that signal. Well, when you're taking those medications, that's the same thing you're doing to your body. Do you really want to go through life not knowing that there's something wrong, pretending that everything's okay? Many people do that, and that's how they operate in life. But don't be surprised when you have the type scenario that Uncle Joe had. Uncle Joe was absent of symptoms, but did that mean he was healthy? How long does your child sit in school? For me, when I was in school, it was all day. I was fortunate we got to have recess when I was in school, but I hear now that most children don't have recess at a certain age, and they have to sit still in school all day long. I often say a boy's going to be a boy, and that means that, they're meant to run, they're meant to play, they're meant to explore and, enjoy life. They're not meant to sit behind a chair for 6 to 8 to 9 hours out of a day with their hands crossed and be quiet. So you have to start to ask yourself, are we asking for unnecessary expectations out of our young children? Is it okay for them to sit for long, long, long hours and at the end of the day still expect excellence out of them? And it's time for a new direction in health and wellness. And that means that you have to approach things differently. You have to look at your health differently. You have to decide what is the path. And I talked to you about the central nervous system because that's the one thing that most people absolutely ignore. They will tell me that they're working on their food. They'll tell me that they're eating better. They'll say, I'm exercising better. I'm drinking more water. I'm doing everything I can to set up my life so I don't have so much stress. But are you taking care of the main system that you're living your life through? There are many boards I'm on, and they will say to me, what does the central nervous system have to do with anything? It's almost like they look at me like I have two heads. But the reality is, this is where your health is coming from, whether you want to hear me or not. It's not just what I say, but this is how your body was brought up to work. And you have to start to ask yourself, if the central nervous system controls and coordinates all functions of every single cell, tissue, and organ in your body, and it also helps you to adapt to your environment that you're living in, whether it's inside or outside, well, isn't that a critical portion to health? And when you talk about children with ADHD, you have to begin to realize that it's so critical that the messages from the brain travel down that spinal cord through every single cell, tissue, and organ back up to the brain without any interference. You have to ask yourself, why would a child who is about to jump off of decking thinking he could fly as a bird as a 7-year-old function at a higher level of health and vitality and become well and get off of all of his medications? Because he got adjusted. When you get adjusted, it's turning those critical messages back on. If you were to walk into a room and decide that, gosh, there are too many lights on in here, let's turn the light switch off, all the lights are going to turn off. Well, that's what's happening with your health. If your central nervous system can't get the signal to the brain and back again because of the stresses from your lifetime, physical, chemical, and emotional, you will begin to see not only the lights dimming, but the lights turning off. And it's one thing to turn those lights off in a room, but it's another to turn them off in your health. And you have to ask yourself, if that's where your health is coming from, why would you not want to have the most vibrant health possible? I don't know about you, but when I walk into a room and it's dark, if I plan on spending any time in there, I turn all the lights on. I want to be able to see. I want to be able to know what's going on. Well, is the same thing true for your health? Are you okay walking around this world as a dim light bulb? Or do you want to walk around this world as somebody that's vibrant, somebody that pours into other people's life? Somebody that stands as a pillar that people say, you know what, I'd like to be like him or I'd like to be like her. You gain more friends. You have more opportunities in life to move things forward. At the end of the day, you've got to begin to see that interference to that central nervous system, it not only slows down and stops the function of how the body was intended, but it also becomes a system that can no longer self-heal and self-regulate. And that's not a good system to have within your body. The longer that interference occurs, the more devastating your health effects will be. And you'll actually start to not only see ill health, but your health completely breaks down. And at the end of the day, I call it the refrigerator analogy. It would be like during the summertime when we have the storms and your lights go out. What if you just bought all your groceries for the whole entire week? Everything was nice and fresh. It's in the refrigerator. You know it has to keep cool, but the lights go out. What would happen if they went out for a few minutes? Would it affect your groceries? What would happen if the lights went out for a few hours? Would it affect your meat or maybe your dairy or your eggs? What would happen if your lights went out for a few days? Would you then consider keeping those groceries, or do you think they'd start to wilt or go bad? What happens if those lights went out for a whole entire week or 2 weeks? I'm pretty certain you'd be taking all those groceries out and throwing them away. I'm pretty certain that you'd not only become really concerned because you want light, we want electricity, we want air conditioning, we want the ability to have things that we're used to having. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what's happening with your health? Is that electrical conductivity being sent to your brain and out to every single organ, tissue, and cell? Or are you like that lightning storm where the lights have turned off, but you don't even realize it? And the one thing I ask you to do, the call to action, is to simply just get checked. I don't care whether it's in my practice or the practice down the road or 5 states over. Get checked by a wellness chiropractor. They're absolutely amazing. The people that see them on a consistent basis will tell you that they not only improve their life, they feel better, everything functions and works at a higher level. But they'll also tell you that when they're consistently getting adjusted, especially during the winter time, they'll say, you know what, I normally get sick during the winter time, but I really don't anymore. I was one of those people. I'd get the flu every December on my birthday because I knew that my birthdays were always canceled. My birthday's December 20th, in case you want to send me birthday presents. I love birthday presents. But the reality is they were always canceled. Once I started getting adjusted on a consistent basis by Dr. Christman, it took me 3 years to realize I wasn't getting sick. I was actually well. The real question is, do you believe that the body is supposed to have normal headaches, normal sicknesses, normal illnesses? And do you also believe, like I used to, that it's normal to get sick throughout the year? I hear people talking over and over again. It's that time of year. The flu bug's around. This is going on. Oh, I just caught the virus. Oh gosh, it's almost like you've got a catcher's mitt on your hand and you're waiting for it to come your way. See, the only way you can get sick is if your central nervous system is lowered and your immune system's lowered and you can't fight off the germs. You see, it's not the germ that's getting you sick. It's the body. It's the host. If the host is functioning at a lower level and your lights are turned off, there's no way that your body can fight off all of the things that are going on in our life. But the reality is when your immune system functions at a higher level of health and vitality, then you not only have the power and the ability, but the fighting source to knock out those germs and for you to stay healthy and well naturally. And I ask you to not only take that next step forward, plan your health and future out, but make sure that you invest in yourself. You're welcome to call our practice. Our number is 410-734-4060. That's 410-734-4060. And our website is www.restorelifeflow.com. That's restorelifeflow, FLOW.com. And tune in live every Saturday from 8:30 till 9 a.m. for Wake Up to Wellness with Michelle Christman. You will absolutely thank yourself. It will open your mind and also empower you to be even better than you already are. It's live on WAMD 970 AM, WYRE, WKHZ, and you can watch us on KHZTV.com. And make sure you stay tuned to this channel every single day of the week while you're at work doing your activities. They play the most amazing music, and you'll absolutely love being a part of this great family. So thank you. Have a beautiful day, and tune in to Wake Up to Wellness next Saturday, 8:30 till 9 a.m.